Alrighty, hello everyone. We are going to go ahead and jump right into 6-8 notes on angles, lines, and transversals. So what I want you to do here is go ahead and copy down the topic and objective, copy down the essential question, make sure your name, class period, and the date is on your notes, and you are going to be using these to help you with our assignments over the next couple of days. So if you're absent, make sure you watch this video, get these notes taken. Or if you're in person, I also want you to watch these notes, get them taken. So essentially the format that I have here, and I want you to go ahead and look at the screen. I have our term or our definition, and then I have the answer to that term or question here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go forward and draw pictures to go along with the definition and describe it. So what I want you to do is kind of pause the video in between each term after we get everything drawn on and make sure you get that copied on. But first things first, before we do anything, just get those, the topic, essential question, everything copied down. And then we're going to move on question by question down through the Cornell notes. I'm also going to have a document posted of these notes on Canvas as well. So that way, if you want to just see the images of the document, you have access to that. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. Our essential question is, what are the relationships among angles that are created when a line intersects two parallel lines? So right off the bat, we have some important vocab words in our essential question. So number one, an intersection point is going to be like where you cross something. So right away, I'm going to write cross underneath that. So that way I know in my head, that's what an intersection is. So think about when you cross the street. You are intersecting the road at that point in which you're crossing the street. So you have to intersect the road to get to the other side of the road. So what the heck are parallel lines? So that's actually our next question here. So what are parallel lines? And I want you to go ahead and highlight, underline, star, anything that I highlight because I think it's important that you know it. So these are lines that never touch. So I like to think of railroad tracks here. They're never going to touch. So, just think about it. I mean, both sides of the rail, they're never going to touch unless you have like a train derailment or something goofy like that, which just probably isn't going to happen. So what I want you to do here is I want you to draw some parallel lines. And I'm going to draw mine in, but you can draw them in however you wish. So I am just going to make my pen a little thicker so they show up a little better. So this is my first line here. And then here's my second line. And these are parallel lines. They're never going to touch. They're going to extend forever in both directions because remember, that's our definition of a line. It extends forever in both directions. The way we describe a parallel line is we write a little symbol on it. It's like a little arrow. So that way we know that these lines are never going to touch. I'm going to call this line L. And I'm going to call this line M, and I want you to do the same thing on your page. So the way we can write that these lines are parallel to each other is line L is parallel to line M. And I want you to notice this symbol that I just wrote on here. This means parallel. So please write this down. It's very important that you know this. You're going to see this a lot coming up in high school geometry as well as our class here. So it's really important that you know this term. So line L is parallel to line N. They are never going to touch. So that is what are parallel lines. And I like to think railroad tracks for that. So go ahead and pause the video at that point if you need to get that copied down. That's what I have for you for parallel lines. Moving on to what is a transversal. So I want you to copy down the same parallel lines that we have written above here. And so since I have the iPad, I have the luxury of just copy and pasting it, which is lovely. So I'm going to go ahead and paste my image in, and I'm going to draw in a transversal. So a transversal is a line, let me get my blue pen here. It's a line that's going to intersect two or more lines. So I have two lines here, L and M, and then my lovely transversal is going to come through and intersect these lines. So I'm going to call this line T, and this is the transversal. So get that written on there. It cuts these lines. So it's just a transversal. It's something that intersects or crosses two or more lines. I also want you to highlight what I'm highlighting here, or underline it, star it. So this is a line that intersects two or more lines. Okay? So remember supplementary angles. We're moving on to the next term here. This is from last week, if you remember. Supplementary angles are angles that sum to be 180 degrees. So if you remember that, you'll be kosher with the assignment. Just supplementary angles are two angles that sum to be 180 degrees. So what I'm going to actually do here is copy my drawing that I did above, paste it in, and you can rewrite the drawing from above down here, or draw another one, or draw on the one you already have up there. Either way, it's fine. So if I go ahead and look at this drawing here, I know that a straight line makes a 180 degree angle. So if I tell you that this angle is 120 degrees, we can find this missing angle simply by doing 180 degrees minus 120 degrees. That would give us a missing angle measure of 60 degrees. These two angles here would be considered supplementary because they sum to be 180 degrees. Make sure you have your 180 degrees starred, circled, whatever you need to do just to help yourself remember that that is the sum of two supplementary angles, 180 degrees. So what are corresponding angles? These are angles that are congruent. So once again, I am going to draw my lovely drawing here, and I do want you to draw this one. So what are corresponding angles? So this is something that you can remember from last week as well. So if I draw an angle here and an angle here, these are called vertical angles. They are also corresponding angles because if I tell you this angle is 45 degrees, we know vertical angles are always equivalent or congruent. So this would also be 45 degrees. So these are corresponding angles. They're congruent. This angle corresponds with this angle. Something interesting here that we have is because we have two parallel lines, these are also going to be of the same measure if they were 45. So just something to take note of. We're going to talk about that a little bit more as we move down through the notes. So the big things here, what are corresponding angles? They are angles that are congruent. Remember, a symbol for congruent is this. Congruent. Get that copied down. We are going to move on to the next here. What are alternate interior angles? So this is starting to get tricky. Don't let these big words trip you up because it's really not too bad. These are, the measure of these angles are equal. So I want you to say measure of these angles equal. That's the big thing here. So the word alternate describes the location of these angles. They're on alternate sides of the transversal. Once again, I want you to draw this drawing. You are going to know parallel lines and transversals like a pro when you get these notes copied down. So a good way that I use to remember the alternate interior angles is you can draw a Z, like that. And an alternate interior angle would be like, so say this is angle A. This would also be equivalent to angle A. See how they're on the opposite sides of the Z? They're both on the insides of the Z. those are going to have the same angle measurement. So if for some reason I told you this was 30 degrees here, this would also need to be 30 degrees there. That's our properties of alternate interior angles. So that is how I remember, what are alternate interior angles. These are going to be congruent. So just so that way we can visualize it a little bit better, I want to make this B. And then I want you to write off to the side that A, so angle A, is congruent to angle B. So that is an important tidbit. And that's going to be your location. Pretty much they're zigzag from each other, if you remember that. So alternate interior angles, the measure of these angles are going to be equal. So that is it for this one. Make sure you get that copied down. Our next term is what are same side interior angles. So what are same side interior angles? These are supplementary angles. We already know these are angles that would sum to be 180 degrees. We already know that from our definition of supplementary. So make sure you get that written down. And they're going to be on the same side of the transversal. So what I want you to do again is copy down that drawing. And you're going to see here these same side interior angles. They're going to be on the same side. So, let's see if if this is angle 1 and this is angle 2, those are going to be same side interior angles. How do I know that? Well, if you look at this like a house or a room, I'm drawing right now in yellow, I'm drawing my interior wall or the inside wall. You can think of interior as inside because it sounds like inside. We know interior is the inside. Exterior would be where I'm going to draw this green line. That's going to be the exterior wall. But these are interior angles. They're opposite of each other. But an important property to these are they are supplementary. So I know that this angle plus this angle must equal 180 degrees. Even though it doesn't look like our conventional way to do that, I know that those angles must sum to be 180 degrees. So angle 1 plus angle 2 is equal to 180 degrees because those are same side interior angles. So the way you can remember that is the inside angles and they're on the same side. It's pretty easy because the name just describes the location. I just really want you to make sure you have these terms written down because they are important. They are going to continue to come up. I am going to go ahead and do a recap for you really quick just to make sure that we have everything here. So parallel lines are lines that never touch. Think railroad tracks for those. A transversal is a line that intersects or crosses, another word for intersect, two or more lines. So you can see our blue line T is our transversal. Supplementary angles are angles that sum to be 180 degrees. Remember, they can make a straight line to get that 180 degrees. Corresponding angles are angles that are congruent. I think of our vertical angles that we learned about from last week. And alternate interior angles have an equal angle measure. And they are like zigzag from each other. So you can draw the Z to help you remember that they are on alternate sides of the transversal from each other. Remember that those are going to be congruent. So angle A here is congruent to angle B here. And then also moving forward, same side interior angles are supplementary angles, which means that they sum to 180. So we have angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. make sure you get that all copied down. And once you have that copied down, you'll be good to go for the rest of 6-8. So nice job, and thank you for watching.